So today we're answering the question, could you be calm and still have a nervous system, your brain and your spinal cord, your body in survival mode? So you might be somebody where people make a comment that you look so calm and collected, or that you are not easily bothered by shenanigans in the world like some of us are. And secretly, you're surprised that people see you as someone calm because inside you feel overwhelmed. There's something fast happening in your body. And the reason, maybe one of the reasons why you are looking put together is because you want to be the one to take care of things because you might not trust how other people would manage, how things would look, and you prefer to just be the responsible one. Um, it's possible also that you have aches and pains in your body, and that is when being calm and collected becomes your armor. So today let's talk about that. Can you be calm and collected truly, but still have a body that's in survival mode? If you're new here, I'm Roanne Samuels. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, hypnotherapist, and a spinal flow practitioner. I am somatic psychotherapy and spinal flow here in Fairfield, California. Women that have tried different types of therapy, talk therapy, but the body's still reactive, or they only tried body work and their mind is more confused. I also see couples in my practice. One of the things that I learned from another psychologist doing is that when you see couples, sometimes the stoic one that looks calm, may actually be flooded. What does that mean? When you're flooded, you're overwhelmed inside, but you kind of just look calm. So I've learned to use oximeter. So if you're not familiar, oximeter is something that you put on your finger when you go to the emergency room. That's one of the things that they check first. It checks for your oxygen level. So it's an oximeter. So I've learned to put it in a certain scale, and then at least what I'm using, it'll beep. Basically, when their oxygen level is low, which may indicate that someone is flooded inside their body. So that is one proof, you could say, or evidence, potential evidence, that even if somebody, you might be looking calm, that it is still possible that inside you may be flooded or your body is in survival mode. What is this anyway? We keep reading about survival mode. There is a sense that something threatening is about to happen, is going to happen, whether it's real, perceived, or imagined, it doesn't really matter. Second, to answer that question, if you could still look calm and have a reactive nervous system, if you've heard of the animal opossum, or we call it the possum in Northern America, these are animals when they are threatened, right? A predator is chasing them, or is that their way to escape that threat is to appear calm. I mean, literally, they play dead. So you could research that. So the opossum plays dead. It looks calm, but you could imagine that its nervous system is super reactive, and it's actually making it use a strategy, playing dead, so it could save its life. So that's the second way to answer that question. The last one that I would share with you, and I also stick around because after this one, I will also share how maybe, because our bodies are all different, you may not be feeling anxious or overwhelmed, but your body could also show um, symptoms in which you are using calmness as an armor. I'll share that, and I'll also share something that you could do in the home so that you could run with this, okay? Which is the whole point of doing videos like this, please subscribe and share with others. The way that I would answer your question is through this experiment. It's called the Strange Situation Experiment. It's a very popular experiment by Mary Ainsworth. So you've heard about the word attachment. What you're seeing here is an experiment with the mother and a child, and the child is with the mother. The mother's asked to leave the room. Then the stranger arrives, and the main thing about what they're observing here is how the mother and the child, how their reunion would go about. So this is a strange situation experiment. So from that experiment that's been done for many years, there is a attachment style. And now we have different names for it. It has evolved. One would be insecure-avoidant. There's the disorganized. Or sometimes they combine both. But what they would find is that in some children, and when the mother arrives and they have a reunion, when children have secure attachment, they usually cry, when they see mom. And then it takes them a little time, but then that the mom is the biggest source of comfort. And then after they get the comfort they need, then they start playing again. There are children, and the fury is that maybe in the home, there's, it's just disorganized. Sometimes they might say that perhaps they're to look at if there are some issues of neglect or abuse happening. I'm not saying that's what's happening, but that's a theory. But what you would see in one of those attachment style is that when the mom returns, the child is just, oh, he sees the mom, and then he just keeps playing. He looks very calm. And so the question is like, why the child at that age? And usually they were studying kids about the same age, very young, and that's a moment where they still very much need their mothers, their primary caregiver. Why they have evolved in that way? So I'm answering the question, could you be calm and have a very reactive nervous system? Yes, it could be a way that you are armoring your self. If you've been disappointed so many times over and over again, there's another experiment, and I'll put it here, where the mom is playing with the child. It's from a different researcher, and then the mom just suddenly stops having any reaction, and the baby is just like tries and tries and tries, and then until the child just no longer tries, and there's this deep disappointment of not even trying after trying so many times. So I'm answering again the question, could you be calm? From those three example, I gave you a couple of experiments. It's showing that you could be calm, and then you could have very reactive nervous system. You could still be in survival mode. I talk about the opossum, right? It's an animal, and when it actually is calm and plays dead, it is actually very reactive inside. It's trying to save its own life. And then my other oximeter example with couples, which has happened, this is just not me, but other clinicians use this, right? Oximeter. And then you will find that the person who appears calm is the one that's flooded inside. So, yes is the answer. Sometimes this type of calmness, and of course, it's great to be calm, but as I have been sharing, this type of calmness is a way, a strategy to armor oneself. So there's a difference with really a regulated body and being calm, versus being calm as a way to mask a dysregulated body. So sometimes it might not show emotionally. You might not say you're anxious, or you're even having some panic attacks. Sometimes it might not just show physically, where you're trying to be calm, but inside you feel anxious or overwhelmed. For some people, it might show physically. When I think about someone that's armoring their body and they look calm, I'm curious about whether they were able to trust their caregivers or their world. Something happened to them as an adult. It doesn't have to be anything traumatic. I like to separate the languaging of something traumatic versus a negative imprint. As a psychotherapist, actually, trauma is easier to find. People remember traumatic experiences, but the little everyday regular experiences are the ones that are harder to really find, but it really changes a person's their brain, their nervous system. So when I think about in general, I have to see you to do an assessment. But in general, when somebody is trying to be protective and they are calm, I'm thinking that if this is the spine, your heart is in the center. So in that area, you have other organs there. How that may show up, it's not all of these, but if you are, how you know that you are using calmness as a way to shield yourself from maybe not trusting others, not trusting the world, is you might experience some breathing issues because it's in the center gateway. Here, you also have the lungs there, heartburn, indigestion. One of these or a combination of this. You might have some kidney or bladder problems. Again, psychologically, you might feel that you're taking on the weight of the world on your shoulders. Okay. This is when you're armoring your heart. So you're very protective of your heart. So you could see this in someone's posture when they become very rigid here, or they're doing this way as if the rib cage is a actual cage, so that they become very close to themselves, as if something has happened in the past potentially, which they've learned to protect themselves. Maybe they've been disappointed, so whatever the case may be. So um, I'll share with you. So now we talked about that. We answered the question. I talk about how that could exhibit physically in some people. Today we're going to talk about what I do in my practice. I call this the tea set, like a tea set. You need the pot, you need the saucer, you need the cup. So the T stands for thoughts, E for emotions, and the feet, as you can see in this person framework, the feet are the actionable habits. So TEA. So for me, the thoughts, you talk about that. Psychotherapy is helpful because you're talking, you become more emotionally literate, right? You also discover the story behind the story. How I do that in my practice is, of course, I listen to the person, but I use hypnotherapy. And if you've heard of hypnotherapy, there's so many different types of hypnotherapy. And if you said, "Oh, I tried that, but that didn't work," this is probably a different type of hypnotherapy where you are actually learning about the imprints. The imprints, like I said, are these little experiences where most of the time the person who have maybe presented that experience to you are mostly well intentioned, but the way you process that, the way your body remember that, or unconsciously how you experience it, left something in your body. Okay, and so part of the process is knowing the story behind the story. The emotions, as we say, is stored in the body. It's expressed through our feelings, our sensations, or your physical symptoms. And the A is important. It's the actionable habits, things that you do little every day without if you're just doing thoughts, you might have thought your way out of anxiety, but that didn't work. If you're just doing emotions, you're just kind of, wanting to find a release for your emotions, but your thought process is also not touched. This can happen sometimes when people have been burnt out and maybe psychotherapy that was not effective. Now they just want to go body work. And body work is amazing. And that's what I do. That's why it's T set in my practice, because it's a combination of psychotherapy and in really infusing the emotion through somatic touch therapy. And the actionable habits is something that we work on together. So it's a holistic care, because why separate it, right? It doesn't make sense. You're just working on your thoughts or your emotions. So that's how I do my work. And I'm going to give you Uh, just as a way for you to also run with this, okay? So the way to really be mindful of your thoughts is to listen to the language that you use. So, with my children, when they say, "Mommy, mommy, I'm feeling sick," I ask them, "What makes you feel sick?" And they said, "Oh, I have a cold and a cough." And I would say, "Oh, you have a cold and a cough. You're not sick. I mean, unless they are sick." But if it's just a cough and a cold, notice how when I say that I have a cough and a cold, you still feel like you can do some activity. But if you say, "Oh, I'm sick," so the words that you use have power, and really is the thoughts are communicated through your language, and sometimes changing the language that you use can help alter the thoughts. So be accurate, not necessarily be positive, but be more accurate. So if somebody aggravates you, like a coworker, and you say something like, "He's so judgmental," right? So judgmental is actually a judgment, right? It's your preconceived notion, whether or not the person is doing that. Because someone could say, "Oh, he's just being a toot toot." But if he's being judgmental to you, imagine your reaction, right? So if you're going to think about something accurate, it's something that you see, you could share with somebody that that's what you saw. For instance, my coworker looked at me from head to toe. So that's more accurate than saying he's judgmental. These are just a start. I'm just giving you a start of how you could start running with this so you could change your thoughts, your emotions, and think of actionable habits. So, since we're talking about being calm, but not really being calm, but using calmness as an armor. So, emotion part, since we're talking about being calm, but not calm as being regulated in your body, but as an armor, it's fear based, if you will. So, first think about a song that makes you laugh each time you hear it. Okay. Now, imagine whatever it is that you're fearing, a mistake, an error, something simple, let's say at work. Imagine that. And as you're imagining that, play that funny song. Okay. Tell me in the comments what your experience, because emotions are the harder one to change. So I'm looking for ways that you can practice. In my practice, I use the touch, the somatic. Um, Strategies and techniques that I use. Um, the last part, actionable habits, you can tweak this. But if you're always like, again, using calmness as armor, the actionable habit would be to be with chaos. Um, to not extreme chaos, but kind of introducing that in your space. So, for example, um, if you're feeling insecure about something, choose one person that you feel safe with. Start easy, where you would say, "Hey, I feel scared. I feel anxious doing this." So the goal is that you feel a little bit more comfortable with controlled chaos first. So you're introducing that to your body so that you're not gonna die basically, but you're simply avoiding something. This is very human. You're calm as an armor because you are trying to not have something happen to you, whatever that may be in the past, that was frightening, that was just very disappointing. So that's very human. So I hope you could run with these TSET, thoughts, emotion, actionable habits. If you're interested in consulting with me, I do online, but also in person if you live in Fairfield or close to it in California. Check the consult link below. Take good care and bye now.